We'll let you come out tonight.
Let you out.
Come out this last couple of weeks.
Or what got you out tonight? How's she doing?
Well, she walks around town. We can walk out there and stuff, go out and slay the car and leave. Major operations, get her in there. Get her out. I take her everywhere. We've got one of those battery operated. We tried those. We never use it because it gets fast. And I take the keys, use it.
We're going. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I was gonna have. Okay, it is 5:30, so we will begin with our city council meeting. Mr. Roger, would you pray for us, please?
Heavenly Father, hear our prayer. I pray, Heavenly Father, for the blessings you give us throughout the years. I pray, Heavenly Father, for our friends, our neighbors, our family who's lost ones, Heavenly Father, in the last few weeks, few days, my friends. I just pray for them, Lord, that you'll be with them. And again, Lord, as we do the city's business today, I hope and pray that we'll do the right things. I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ms. Valerie, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Dobbs is absent. Counselor Belly.
Here.
Counselor Barton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Morgan is absent.
Here. Okay, so we have a quorum, so we will begin with the consent agenda. And line item number 5, approval of minutes. A, regular meeting, July 6, 2026. B, special meeting, July 21st, 2026. Number 6, approval of June 2026 treasurer's report. Number 7, approval of July 2026 payroll figures for the general fund in the amount of $185,514.02. 8, receipt of July 2026 claims, City of Eufaula. 9, approval of resolution number 26-08-01, confirming the physical address for the City of Eufaula. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
And I'll second that.
Counselor Belly.
Yes.
Counselor Barton.
Yes.
And Mayor Dickman.
Yes. Okay, the consent agenda passes. Going on to line item number 10 for individual items for consideration. Presentation discussion regarding an update on the development of the comprehensive plan. Yes, Ms. Dawn.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, councilors. Thank you so much for bringing us in to provide you with an update to the process we are going through to develop the comprehensive plan. My name is Dawn Thomas, and we'll start with who's here today and see how that goes. But I want to give you an overview of progress that we've made thus far. This is called a mid-project update. I think we're a little past midpoint, but this worked out for scheduling. And so we're going to go through and just give you the highlights of the engagement efforts that have been done so far, the vision and community values that have been identified, as well as just a high-level review of the various chapters. All except the last 2 are fully drafted, and we're working through reviews at this point. So then we'll talk about next steps and wrap up. So as I mentioned, my name is Dawn Thomas. I'm the project manager. Jake Lange, the project planner, is here with me, and Jake's going to take over part of the presentation here in a moment. So here we go. The public engagement that this project is built upon began early with an online survey. We had more than 450 respondents, And then we also were able to conduct a student survey with 48% or 48 participants responding. Online mapping, we had a few comments on the interactive map on the website, but we have had consistent views on the website, so people continue to go to the project website to see how things are going. So far, we have been involved in and had materials presented for people to engage with at the Lights on Eufaula event, at the Green Run back in March, and then most recently at Whole Hog Days. So the things that we've learned through this engagement identify strengths and areas of concern for the community. So neighborhood safety, connecting with neighbors, and small town character are things that people have identified as strengths. Some outdated amenities, questions regarding emergency response and infrastructure capacity are areas of concern. The engagement that we draw through this process really shapes the plan itself. And so this graphic just depicts kind of how it filters down into the various layers of the planning process. The vision and community values are sort of the North Star for the plan itself. And then there are chapter goals as well as recommendations and specific actions that are developed for each of the main topic areas within the plan. So, excuse me, starting with that vision statement and the North Star that we're kind of pointing everything towards. In 2050, Eufaula is a thriving full-time community where people choose to work, live, and grow, supported by a vibrant year-round quality of life centered around the lake, strong neighborhoods, and lasting connections. People come for the lake and choose to call Eufaula home for everything else. So that is what's risen to the top and is generally endorsed by all of the folks so far that have seen it. And we've had that available for the community to provide input on, and as well as your advisory committee. The community values that have been derived through this process are that Eufaula is healthy, it's an evolving community, its foundation is relationships, and that it is a prosperous community. The plan itself is divided into 10 chapters, starting with just an overview of the community, a lot of that demographic data that sort of is the foundational data that paired with the visioning in the second chapter helps us to understand how the community wants to move forward and what collectively the community wants to see long term. So we're thinking about a planning horizon of 2050. So we're looking ahead 24, 25 years at this point. The plan chapters beyond that, so starting with land use all the way down through utilities and infrastructure, are just core topics of content that we evaluate existing conditions and provide some sort of projecting or future thought with regard to how each of those evolves over the next several years. And implementation is basically your action plan for how to move forward as a community and make decisions that are in keeping with the community's vision. So far, we've got all of the lighter colored items drafted and ready to go. The snapshot and visioning will continue to evolve a little bit because that's where we're capturing conversations and engagement activities, and we still have some more of that planned. And then the last two, we're just still working on. They're coming along. The future land use plan, we met with the advisory committee earlier today, and we really dug into the future land use map. There's a map component to this part of the plan. There's also quite an extensive narrative that explains future land use categories and how the community anticipates growing and evolving with regard to how and where different types of activity are conducted on properties. And so couple of the framing items that we're looking at is to understand where growth pressures are and identify that so that those areas can evolve as they're intended to. Guide growth where it's appropriate. And by guiding growth, that means identifying where and what types of land use the community wants to see in different types of areas, particularly looking closely at areas that are underdeveloped or vacant at this time. Looking at established neighborhoods, making sure that those areas can be protected and they can retain the character of existing areas that is desirable. Development should align with infrastructure capacity. So again, that's making sure that the areas that are identified for future growth actually have the access to and can be connected to infrastructure, or that it is part of the planned future capital improvement program, for instance. The future land use map gives you the policy for making land use decisions such as zoning and development approvals. And so that's important because those decisions happen on a daily basis. What we heard from the community with regard to land use was that people want to protect and celebrate the things that make Lake Eufaula unique, and part of that is, of course, the lake. Protecting neighborhood character and directing growth in the proper places. So you'll see some of this repeating, and that's very intentional. This is what we heard from the community. That's what's built into the goals for the chapter. So direct growth strategically, protect neighborhood character, leverage the lake, that's part of your special sauce, and guide change with clarity and flexibility. Make sure the map makes sense and make sure that people understand the best ways to use that tool for making decisions moving forward. This is your existing land use, and this is always where we start, understanding basically what's on the ground today and evolving that into a future land use map. This is a draft. It has been marked up and changed as of this afternoon. So it's continuing to evolve, but I think we've got it to a point now that we've got consensus through the folks that are participating on the advisory committee. And I think it's starting to look a little bit more like Eufaula wants to look. So we're pleased with the progress on that. And what's important here is to understand that this is not a new zoning map. This is a policy document that helps guide decision-making. So it's another tool in your toolbox that the city will be able to use to help understand how the community is going to grow, where infrastructure is needed, and what is anticipated moving forward. There's also a component in the land use chapter that talks about future growth strategies. And this is a somewhat complicated table with a bunch of tiers, but it's intended to give you a process for evaluating how and when the physical boundaries of the city grow, whether that is by petition, which is typically and probably most likely the way that you'll see growth occur, physical growth, but it could happen through other means as well. But this is consistent with state statute, and it also gives the city the ability to make some informed decisions about the impact of that type of growth. Transportation and mobility is where Jake is going to pick up.
Thanks, Dawn. So excited to talk about kind of the next step. After you've figured out where you want all of the different things in your community to be, you need to understand how people are going to get between them. And so to give you, again, that kind of 30,000-foot view, a lot of what we heard is taking care of the assets and the infrastructure you have is something people value. We'll talk more about that in a moment. People also do want the option to be able to get around Eufaula with things other than their car. They obviously want it to be convenient to drive, but having those choices is going to be critical moving forward. Really connecting those key destinations such as the lake and downtown, but also key neighborhoods where people are living and starting their day is going to be a key strategy for how we invest in our transportation infrastructure. We also want to make sure that whatever we're building, whatever ways people are able to get around are accessible to people of all ages and abilities. Again, we'll kind of drill down on that in a moment. And then any investment we make in the transportation infrastructure should be rooted in what we heard earlier about the centeredness on quality of life and making sure that it enhances people's ability to get around, to access the things that they need, and is part of a broader scheme of making Eufaula the kind of place people really want to stick around. So like we were just looking, there's a lot of repetition in some of this language. Those are the key things that we were hearing from the community. They're not quotes, but they're sort of the primary themes that we extracted from that online survey, from conversations we've had when we've been in the community here, making sure that we take care of what we've got, that we create opportunities for people to get out of their cars and get around other ways where they may want to, and that everybody that lives and visits this community, no matter what sort of condition they're in, is able to get around. So what that translates to in terms of the specific goals we want to achieve over that 25-year time horizon is an attitude of fix it first. So taking care of the roadways you've got, making sure that the ways people are accustomed to getting around and these assets you've already invested a lot of resources in are in good working order. Preparing for the future, we'll look at your master thoroughfare plan map in just a moment here. One of the key changes that's made there is a move from just having local roadways as one designation and then the highways as another designation to a slightly more complex and sophisticated roadway map tool that includes arterials and collectors. Those are roadway types that respond to different traffic needs and have different physical construction standards to accommodate heavier or higher rates of traffic as well. So preparing for a future where there may be a more robust or more stratified set of roadway needs. We've talked about connecting those key destinations so that whether you live here or you're just visiting, if you want to stop in somewhere downtown and get a slice of pizza or something, you're able to walk or otherwise get yourself to the lake, and you don't necessarily have to rely on a vehicle, and that there's a strong connectivity between those assets that really bring people and get them to stay. Include everyone. I've mentioned that a few times now. We just want to make sure that if you have any kind of mobility concern, if you're perhaps someone who is too young to drive but may, in an emergency situation, for example, need to get out of the home and get somewhere safe, you're able to navigate the community safely no matter what condition you're in and what sort of vehicular or other mobility access you have. And then finally, treating mobility as longevity. Not only do you have kind of the immediate health, safety, welfare of a well-designed roadway and pedestrian network that keeps people safe from collisions with vehicles and things of that nature, but also treating it as a long-term investment in the public health of the community by affording them the chance, people here, the chance to be active and to get out of their cars and get around in different ways. So we talked about that master thoroughfare plan map. You can see that here. What you have on the ground today, you basically just got that dark red and then the kind of light, thin gray roads. Again, we've stratified that so that Lakeshore Drive and then things like Front Street and First Street are collectors, so that over the next 25 years, those key pass-throughs that people use to, for example, avoid Main Street when it's congested are a little bit better equipped to respond to those higher traffic rates that they end up pulling in. We're also exploring the prospect of how do we move trucks through or around the community in different ways. We were just talking about that in our meeting earlier with the advisory committee. So something that is still under further study as we develop this chapter. Housing and neighborhoods. Now, this one we actually just went straight to the goals because this chapter and the concept of housing more broadly is really kind of the question of our time as planning professionals. It's in every conversation we have locally, at the state level, and even the National American Planning Association has put a lot of focus into this topic in recent years. One of the most critical things we want to do here in Eufaula is treat housing as an opportunity, not only in kind of the conventional sense where it's something people might be able to purchase and build wealth with. We do want to continue to facilitate that, but also making sure that people at every different stage of their life are able to use the type of housing they have access to as an opportunity to participate in the local economy, to engage in those quality of life amenities and local culture, making sure that whether that's through, again, rental or ownership and at different price points, people are able to use housing and leverage it toward other goals they may have for participating in the Eufaula community. Part and parcel with that is expanding housing choice, recognizing that someone that is just returning to Eufaula after coming back from college, for example, is going to have different housing needs and different economic circumstances from someone that might be 10 years into a career and ready to start a family. So we want to make sure that we are accommodating of and responsive to all the different lifestyle choices that people may want to make with regard to their housing. That obviously means some growth and some change, but as that happens, we also want to make sure that your existing neighborhoods that have that strong community connection that people value so much, like we already heard, are protected, and that we have the right kind of policy and ultimately regulatory tools to leverage those and keep them the kind of great asset that make people want to live here. And that is exactly tethered to that idea of directing development strategically, of guiding growth to the places where it's desirable and away from the places where it may not be so desirable, using that future land use map in tandem with how we treat policy around infill housing or redevelopment to keep the neighborhoods that are great, and to capitalize on the opportunity for future growth that may be coming down the pipeline. Economic development. So the kind of 30,000-foot view on this one, there is that strong tourism economy, but we've heard a lot about the seasonality of it and some of the difficulties that come with not being exactly a year-round community and some of what we heard from those conversations. The local jobs and services, especially in kind of the service economy, are limited to that season, that high season. A lot of people commute out of the community to go to work. And there are some gaps in things like healthcare, retail, and your sort of daily services and amenities and retail opportunities. So ultimately, that creates a lot of opportunity to make strategic investments toward a more robust and consistent year-round economy. Again, you can see those are the direct things that we're hearing from the community through that engagement. A lot of that same language where we want to create more opportunity for people to enter the workforce and work in town, live near where they work, create business opportunities for people who live in town to have that quality of life with diversity of restaurants and shopping options. And again, to make the type of economy where business owners are not as subject to some of the highs and lows that come with the summer versus winter season. So that creates these goals. Again, a lot of familiar language, but the most central one is that diversification, so that the lake, which is this wonderful asset, we want to leverage all of the resources we get out of having that tourist economy, is something we can use to ultimately build towards something that we're not reliant on that tourism. One of the great things that we heard in an earlier meeting, for example, was that certain people in a survey said that the lake is kind of a hidden gem. In reality, somebody said the downtown and the town is the hidden gem. The lake is what people know about. And I think that is a great quote that talks to that diversification. Within that, of course, downtown and these other areas we want to bring people to, we want to make sure that the amenities, the services are robust and are diversified so people have everything they need. And within that, again, we want to make sure people have the opportunity to work in town. They don't have to commute out for their job, and they can stay local, live, shop, work, and play all in one place. So I think that brings us to Parks and Open Space, where I'll pass it back to Dawn.
Okay, moving on through these chapters. Parks and open space are pretty important to almost any community. They're a real value here in Eufaula. So some of the things that we have heard and the high structured components of this, having a strong system. Parks concentrated near downtown and the lake, where areas where people can access them readily. Right now, there are limited access to parks in the western areas of the community. There's a high demand for trails and amenities through all of the input that we received, and that people want to see a parks and rec system, parks and open space system that really supports quality of life, but also can support tourism a little more broadly even than what it is today. So again, the things that we heard specifically are fill the gaps where there are not opportunities for things like multipurpose fields, where there are not really gathering places, find locations to introduce those to the community. Make sure that everything's a safe space. Everyone can access and also enjoy these services and facilities for all ages. Connect the city. So again, we heard quite a bit about trail connections and moving through the community through a variety of different means. Jake didn't mention golf carts, but I'm sure golf carts are like right up there when it comes to connections. But it's great to be able to get into your car, get onto your bicycle, or get in your golf cart and have access to all the different places that are important to you within the community. So these translate to the goals to safeguard the lake, use the parks and open space as a tool to protect water quality, to protect the environmental elements that make the lake special. You also, of course, have more flooding and other types of stormwater management that many communities don't have because of the lake itself. So there are some sensitive lands around this particular feature that need to be protected. And so that's one of the goals in this chapter. Equitable access, again, making sure that everyone can get to the amenities like the lake and enjoy those recreation opportunities equally. Strengthen connectivity. That's just kind of obviously you're hearing some of these repetitive themes throughout the various chapters. Modernize and sustain, that is really looking at the development around the lake. There are opportunities to ensure that there is development, but it's not at the expense of the qualities of the lake. So you want to maintain the views, you want to maintain access, and those types of amenities to your lake-oriented community while you grow. Community character, this bundles a lot of different things into a chapter. Things that we identified or observed is that obviously the lake is one of the things that most significantly shapes the community. There are gaps in certain types of services that could improve. There is a demand for high quality, vibrant public spaces. People are interested in really that quality of life. They want the lake life. They want this to be a full service community. And that's part of what can enhance the character of Eufaula. And that growth should be enforcing that local identity. It's not just grow for the sake of growing. It's grow for the value that it brings to the community and the things that can be enhanced through that growth. So celebrating Eufaula's small town character, we heard over and over again, preserving history, but also understanding how to accommodate growth, improving access to everyday services, and then strengthening community spaces and public life. So the city doesn't control all the property in the town, in the city. It controls public property, and a lot of that strengthening community spaces can happen within publicly owned properties and within the public right-of-way. So I think I probably mentioned maybe early on in our conversations that the city is one of the largest landowners in Eufaula because it owns all of the right-of-way. And that can be utilized in a way that really expresses the character of Eufaula. So these goals, of course, are sort of the offshoot of those observations and the input from the community, preserving community character, making sure that your historic assets are maintained and kind of used as a foundation, enhancing public spaces to attract development. Oftentimes we hear, well, we want this. We want a grocery store. We want a Chick-fil-A. Why can't the city bring us XYZ development? The city doesn't necessarily have control over that, but what the city can do is ensure that public spaces that are adjacent to private property are enhanced. They're desirable. And so if the city invests, then the neighbors will likely invest and feel more confident about their investment in their own private property. So there are ways that the city can kind of enhance or incentivize adjacent development without necessarily handing out money. It's handing out value by improving the city properties or adjacent to private development locations. Enhancing the quality of life and community health. We want to find ways to promote healthy activities, but also to bring healthy options and healthcare services to the community. Strengthening identity and placemaking. So one of our core activities recently, and that will be extending to an activity next week, is placemaking. And we're really focusing on downtown and the connection between downtown and the Lakeshore, and then North and South Lakeshore areas as really prime opportunities to show off the special things that are here in Eufaula and find ways to really amplify that image and the exciting opportunities that brings. So placemaking. Strengthening connections between downtown and the lake. We're really focusing on McKinley Avenue as a connection. It's a direct shot between Main Street and Lakeshore. And so we're looking at ideas to really make that a very recognizable location so that things can be kind of funneled into a corridor that makes sense. All right, so those are the chapters that we've completed and developed we developed goals for. Recommendations come in the implementation section. But we're basically here a little bit more than halfway through the project timeline. We will be meeting with the advisory committee in September and October. And we anticipate in November, probably second week of November, having an open house and being able to present the full draft plan to the community so that we can get a final round of engagement and public input before we package everything and make it ready for going through the Planning Commission and City Council for adoption. So we expect that could happen pretty close to the end of the year. We put February on the calendar because it's impossible to schedule things right at the end of the year. So we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of grace when it comes to getting through those adoption meetings. And so aside from those things, we will be having this placemaking engagement next Thursday, August 13th. It'll be here in City Hall, and we're kind of making it a pizza placemaking and planning type of activity. We want to put maps in front of folks and let them imagine on those maps kind of some of the opportunities between downtown, Lakeshore, and McKinley. So we'll have all of those areas kind of highlighted in maps and give people the opportunity to really mark them up, give us ideas. I mentioned the CPAC meetings in September, October, and then the open house in November. So those are the next times that you guys will be seeing us and hearing more about the plan. And that's what I've got for you this evening.
Any
Questions?
I would just like to say, it's been a kind of an eye opener, the way when you start doing these meetings, just planning for everything. People don't realize how we have to try to plan for every aspect, whether it's infrastructure, roads, layout. And so I've really enjoyed the process very much.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure, and we will get out of your hair and let you actually get on with your meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Evelyn, would you like to say anything just on the comprehensive plan? I think it's been going very well.
I have just, like you, just really enjoyed the whole process. I think that, there's things that are on the top of our list that are vitally important, and we're talking a lot about those, like
Mhm.
road reconstruction and stuff. But it literally is just looking at every aspect of running the city government and saying, what can we do now to put this out there so that there is a plan. This is the first comprehensive plan this town has ever had. And so I think it's important that the people that come after us will have it as a guidebook to lead them into the next generation. So
Yeah,
great.
I fully agree. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 11, discussion, consideration, possible action on resolution number 26-08-02, authorizing grant application to Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the city council's identified road improvements as its number one priority. And so looking through that, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation has a Lakeshore Access Program, and we're requesting submitting a grant application for $1 million to them to do Lakeshore Drive from Main Street to the marina. We estimate the total project will be about 1.7 million, but we're hoping to be able to partner with Muskogee Nation for at least some of that work and reduce the total cost to the local taxpayers.
That sounds exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 260803.
And I will second that we go find some free money.
Mr. Martin, you meant 02, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
mine says 260803.
That was number 12. 11.
Go up
Oh, I
above
beg
it.
your pardon.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I beg your pardon. Yeah, okay.
No, they're right next to each other. I mean, they're right on top of each other. That's easy.
Well, I'm a senior citizen.
Oh, yeah. I second that.
Well, I second it. 260802.
Counselor Gully,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Moving on to number 12, discussion, consideration, possible action on resolution number 26-08-03, authorizing grant application to the Rural Economic Action Plan. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the city applies for this funding every year. It's offered through the state of Oklahoma, administered through Eastern Oklahoma Development District. This year, we're requesting along Bunny Creek Bridge. It's a 10-inch water line that actually runs above ground. So sometimes it's underwater and sometimes it's right above the water level. So we're submitting this project to go in and bore the line. It will be put in casing, so if there's ever a problem, we can pull it back out and replace it. The requested grant amount is $70,000, and we estimate the total to be $80,000. Again, trying to reduce the impact to our local ratepayers.
I like that. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, I make a motion that we accept resolution number 260803.
A second.
Counselor Gully,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Moving on to number 13, discussion, consideration, possible action on contract between the Oklahoma State Department of Health and City of Eufaula, providing for the city to serve as the subservient and pass-through entity with respect to federal award funds pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act and ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds administered by the Oklahoma State Department of Health for the purpose of increasing and improving medical care, treatment, and facilities for the benefit of the public. Sorry, subrecipient.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This one, the agenda item really explains it quite well. But I will note that this would be a $2 million grant that would come to the city of Eufaula and then be passed through to St. Francis. Their intent is to increase the size of the emergency department by physically increasing the size of the building. Our understanding is that the funds will have to be spent down by Thanksgiving in order to, of this year, yes. So they're ready to jump on it and work on an accelerated timeline. St. Francis has already put the project out for bid, and they advertised, I believe, starting last week in the Eufaula Indian Journal and the Tulsa World. And then an important component of this is St. Francis is responsible for selecting the contractor and making payments directly to the contractor. And then they submit everything to the city to request reimbursement. And then we send that to the state. And if the state chooses not to reimburse it for whatever reason, the city is not held liable for that difference. So an important protection for the city and taxpayers. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions with that?
Question.
Things are moving really quick.
Yeah, they are. Thanksgiving. That's quick.
Yes. It doesn't mean their entire project has to be complete, because I believe they said it might be about $3 million total. But at least that 2 million portion has to be spent. Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept item number 13.
I second.
Counselor Bell,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes, that passes. Okay. Moving on to line item number 14, discussion, consideration, and possible action on ARPA funding and subrecipient agreement with St. Francis Hospital Muskogee Incorporated, and providing for the city to serve as a pass-through entity with respect to federal award funds pursuant to the American Rescue Plan and ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds administered by the Oklahoma State Department of Health for the purpose of increasing and improving medical care, treatment, and facilities for the benefit of the public. Mr. J.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the previous item was between the state and the city. This item is between the city and St. Francis, just outlining those, the roles and responsibilities of both parties. The only thing of note in this is St. Francis will make a one-time payment to the city of $5,000 to cover administrative costs. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding that? Can you just hit a couple of highlights on what exactly that entails from the city?
On the work from the city. Primarily reviewing their reimbursement requests and submitting that to the state. And then we will have a ongoing responsibility to monitor the project. And Luke may add to that.
That's correct. And I mean, primarily this agreement on this agenda item specifies all the roles and responsibilities among St. Francis and Eufaula. While the city would have oversight responsibilities, the agreement places nearly all administrative responsibilities on St. Francis. It also provides significant indemnification provisions. Essentially, it incentivizes St. Francis to do it the right way, because that is the only way they're going to get the federal funds back from the Oklahoma State Department of Health. The city's role is really limited to oversight. I do think there's going to be some smaller administrative aspects of that. A lot of that has already been done in this preparation. Yep. Happy to answer any questions.
No, I think that's good. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve this agreement?
Motion to approve item 14.
I'll second.
Counselor Bell,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay. That passes. Moving on to line item number 15, discussion, consideration, and possible action, determine whether the proposed signage by St. Francis Eufaula on and around Hospital Drive serves as a specific public purpose and should be exempt from the sign code according to Part 12, Chapter 15, Section 12-1565-H of the Eufaula Code of Ordinances. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in the agenda packet are the proposed signs from St. Francis and their location. I believe this is the first time we've ever exercised this component of the code to allow an exception. But I think it's quite defensible because their signage is indicating where the emergency department is, that it serves a clear public purpose, unlike a general business advertisement would. Happy to answer any other questions.
And this is what St. Francis has wanted with their signage.
Correct. And if you happen to go out there, I believe currently they have temporary signage that are in the approximate locations of where the permanent signs would go.
Okay.
I would make a motion to accept item number 15.
I second.
Counselor Golden?
Yes.
Counselor Barton?
Yes.
Mayor Hickman?
Yes. Okay, that passes. Moving on to number 16. Discussion, consideration, possible action on ordinance number 26-08-01, amending the following sections of the Eufaula Code of Ordinance, Part 5, Chapter 1, Sections 5 through 101, and 5-102, and 5-103, and 5-104, and 5-106, and 5-107, Chapter 2, Sections 5-201, 5-202, 5-203, 5-204, and 5-205, and Chapter 11, Sections 5- through 1,101 and 5-1,102 concerning building and regulation and codes, building and code and permits, contractor registrations, and enforcement and penalties. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I would say that this is a comprehensive improvement to our building codes. Currently, a building permit's required for any renovation or improvements made over $150, which is a very low threshold. What this does is state that whatever requires a permit in the international building codes is what we would follow. Generally speaking, if it requires a licensed electrician, licensed plumber, someone that has a contractor license through the state, that's going to require a permit. Something like replacing a toilet would not, replacing cabinetry would not. Currently under the codes, if it's over that $150 threshold, technically it should have a building permit for it. Caleb's also here to present more on it and answer any questions that y'all may have.
Mr. Caleb.
Good evening. Let me open my book here. Sorry, I got notes. Just kind of piggyback off what Jacob said, it does kind of outline more what needs a permit, what does not need a permit. You know, like you said, currently anything over $150, you hit that threshold. This does allow for things like minor electrical work, you know, replacing an outlet, replacing a ceiling fan, things like that doesn't necessarily need a permit anymore. It also does something that is important. We don't really have a mechanism in place for currently, and that's emergency projects. You know, if there's something over the weekend, somebody has a busted water line to the house, you know, you can't really get a permit on a Saturday at 4 p.m., but you can do the work and then come in on Monday and get that permit. And that does allow for that in these amendments. It also allows for it in the International Building Code as well. It's specified twice in the codes themselves and in the amendments that we've made. I'd be happy to answer any other questions though.
I think this is positive. I do.
Yeah.
I think this is very positive where we're kind of flipping this to make this easier on the residents, not harder. So
I think that's very important because, I mean, like you said, like if it's just like routine maintenance,
Right.
I mean, why do I?
And cosmetics on top of that, you know, currently if somebody was going to come through and refloor their entire house with, you know, an LVP or even hardwood or whatever, you know, it would require a permit, but that's all cosmetic. You know, they're not messing with the subfloor. They're not messing with the joists. So as far with this, once it's adopted, if you guys wish to adopt it, it would not require any permit.
No, I definitely think that's an improvement, you know, especially with the emergency, you know, clause in there, because I mean, so how would that emergency clause work?
So the way it's been done in past jurisdictions that have been, it's a lot of we're trusting you guys to work with us and trust us. But you do what you need to do. If they've got to replace, say, a sewer line from the house to the main, they've got to replace the whole thing. They would leave that ditch open for me or Otto to come and inspect on Monday. They would come in, they would pull the permit, we would do the inspection, then they can close up the ditch.
How do we enforce that? If they do something, is there a penalty or how do we know, Jacob?
I would defer that to Mr. Luke Lester.
Yeah, the city could take action and assess penalties pursuant to the ordinances.
But there's not a set
they can-
amount or.
Well, I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. And I think the city could also take action to enjoin that work, to prevent that work until proper permits are obtained.
Okay.
I think the onus is going to be on us to make sure that these changes, that the general public is aware of the changes, to get the word out so that they know what is expected of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments?
No.
Yes. Well, hold on one second. Does he need to?
Well, you make a public comment on the matter. I
Okay.
think he does need to fill out a form.
You care to fill out a form for him? Yeah. And then, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Cable.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jeremy, if you care to step up to the podium, please.
I apologize, and I do thank you guys for doing something about this issue just for the residents of town. I have to agree with you, Jacob. Just a service call can be more than $120. But the whole point is, if something happens to somebody, we can keep safe services going, good sanitation, everything throughout the weekend or a holiday weekend especially. That's pretty much it. So like I said, I do appreciate you guys working on this and trying to make it so that people can keep going.
Thank you.
On the fines, I'm kind of curious what they are, and I hope that they would be greatly enforced.
Okay. I hear a motion to accept.
I would make a motion to accept item number 16.
A second.
Counselor Belli,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay, that item passes. Now moving on to line item number 16A, discussion and consideration of possible action to approve or disapprove emergency clause in ordinance number 26-08-01. Mr. Jacob? Just-
This is just a standard practice to adopt it as, with an emergency clause. It
The
goes to,
emergency clause that you guys just spoke about.
to clarify, this puts the ordinance into effect immediately.
Oh.
This is our standard practice for ordinances. Otherwise, it would go into effect, and Luke can correct me, I believe 30 days.
That is correct.
And
Make a motion that we approve 16A.
I second.
Counselor Belli,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to line item number 17, discussion, consideration, possible action on ordinance number 26-08-02, repealing and reserving section 17-207 and amending section 17-208 within part 17, chapter 2 of the Fall Code of Ordinance and concerning utilities. Mr. Jacob.
yes, Mr. Mayor, I think part of this agenda is just trying to be more customer friendly, customer focused. So this item currently, if someone has a leak at their property and they do not use a licensed plumber, they make the repair on their own, presumably. Even if it's a simple repair, the max credit they can get is $20 to their bill. However, if they use a licensed plumber, they're able to get a 50% credit over their 6-month average. So if over a 6-month average, they're normally $100 bill for water, but this last month they had $400. That means they went $300 over, so 50% is $150 that they could get back. It's just leveling the playing field. This does not take away from if it's work that needs to be done by a licensed plumber, they still have to pull a permit and do it properly. But a lot of times we find where it's a smaller thing that caused a large water bill and they made the repair on their own to fix it, which we want, but then they're penalized by only getting a $20 credit.
So this will normalize that 50% credit all across. No more $20, 50%. If you fixed it or the plumber fixed it.
Correct.
So we just want it fixed.
We do, yes.
I make a motion to accept item number 17.
I second.
Counselor Going,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Higgins.
Yes. Okay. Going into 17A, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve or disapprove emergency clause in ordinance number 26-08-02.
Motion to approve 17A.
Second.
Counselor Going,
Yes.
Counselor Barton.
Yes.
Mayor Higgins.
Yes. Okay, moving on to line item number 18, discussion, consideration, possible action on ordinance number 26-08-03, amending sections 7-05, 7-06, 7-07, 7-108, 7-109, and 7-110, and repealing and reserving sections 7-112 within Part 7, Chapter 1 of the Follow Code of Ordinances concerning finance, purchasing authority, and purchasing procedures.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Council adopted a purchasing manual in, I believe, April of last year, which put some great things into effect. But at the same time, the ordinance wasn't updated, and there, at times, it was in conflict with each other. My philosophy is that council should establish policies through ordinances, and the city manager and staff should carry through those policies and make the day-to-day work done in purchasing manuals and whatnot. So what this does is elevate those things out of the purchasing manual up to the ordinance level, and then provides clear guidance to staff on the guardrails that we need to follow for financial policies. The only noticeable difference is that department head spending limit increased from $1,000 to $5,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we kind of got the cart before the horse. Is that what you're saying?
I think good intentions, just doing some housekeeping.
Yeah. Any comments?
I'll also add on this, the ordinance kind of sets the outer boundaries and the hard and fast rules that the purchasing policy would have to comply with. But it also would enable the city manager to create a purchasing policy really within those confines administratively to be able to be updated without formal action. But it does have the same hard limits, the $5,000 limit. It keeps the same $50,000 limit for city manager authority, and it does not really affect the city's obligations under the Public Competitive Bidding Act. Those are treated separately.
And with that $5,000, that's of course within the budget. I mean, of what they're spending, allowed to spend.
Correct. And I should say that with how our system currently works, every requisition still goes through me. So I approved one today for $2.99. I don't love it, but I get to know everything that we buy. So
Perfect. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Counselor Going,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
and Mayor Higgins.
Yes. Okay. And number 18A, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve or disapprove emergency clause in ordinance number 26-08-03. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve 18A.
I'll second.
Counselor Going,
Yes.
Counselor Barton.
Yes.
Mayor Higgins.
Yes. Okay. Number 19, council remarks. Are there any remarks by the council?
I would just like to have everyone keep their thoughts and prayers with Tisha. She
Yeah.
lost her mom today, and that's why she's not with us this evening. And so just keep her in your prayers.
I would like to also remark on Whole Hog Days. It looked like that went very well. It was very hot, but I do appreciate all the city employees that have helped with that and with closing Main Street. I thought that was kind of, there's a lot of good comments with that. So I know that took some work, and I appreciate that very much. So
I'd like to give a big thanks to the crew that put in a new fire hydrant at the Chevrolet place. They worked all day long in a hot, no shade at all, and they stayed with it. and they did a heck of a job. And I mean, it was hot now. But
So-
anyway, I don't know who the crew was, but I really appreciate that. They
There's a
did
fire
good.
hydrant.
They had to put in a new one,
Yeah.
apparently, yeah.
Do they play in it afterwards or?
I don't know if they turned it or not, but they should have. Big enough hole that they had a swimming pool there. But they did a good job, I'm sure.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Counselor Dolan?
Yes.
Counselor Barton?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We are finished with the city council meeting. Now moving into the Eufaula Public Works Authority meeting. Ms. Valerie, can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Dolan is absent. Counselor Dolan?
Here.
Counselor Barton?
Here.
Vice Mayor Morgan is absent. Mayor Hickman?
Here. Okay, moving to the consent agenda. Number 2, approval of minutes, regular meeting, July 6, 2026. Line item 3, approval of July 2026 payroll figures for the Eufaula Public Works Authority in the amount of $82,075.93. Receipt of July 2026 claims, Eufaula Public Works Authority. Approval of resolution number 26-08-04, confirming the physical address for the Eufaula Public Works Authority. Number 6, approval of the use of Oklahoma Cooperative Liquid Assets Security Systems, Oklahoma class for investments of the Eufaula Public Works Authority CWSRF Fund. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Counselor Dolan?
Yes.
Counselor Barton?
Yes.
Mayor Hickman?
Yes. Okay, now moving on to individual items. Number 7, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding sanitation services, including consideration of A, extension of the current sanitation services contract for an additional 1-year term, or B, authorization to solicit proposals for sanitation services. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the city contracted with Sue's Recycling in 2016, and that was initially for a 5-year period. I believe in 2018 or 2019, we did an amendment to that to extend it for another 5-year period, bringing us to where it would expire December of this year, 2026. It has a provision that if no action is taken, it would renew on a yearly basis. I've spoken with them. Luke has confirmed that it is Sue's Recycling is still an active LLC doing business as GFL. So the contract's still valid. And they've expressed an interest in renewing for 1 year and maintaining the current rates that have been in place since 2023. So that's one option for council. The other option is to direct staff to solicit proposals, which could result in switching to another vendor or potentially staying with the same vendor. But obviously the rate structure would be open for potential increases.
So I'm a big fan of not increasing the rates right now. I just think that it would be beneficial to us just to leave the contract as it lies. Is it a 1-year contract?
It would be a 1-year extension.
Okay, so, I mean, we could take a look at it again next year. I think they've had 1 year with us, or has it been 2 now? How long has Sue's been kind of?
I want to say under a year.
Yeah, it's not been.
Okay, it's not even been a year.
Mhm.
So I think that while we may have had a few hiccups, in a few places with it, I think overall, at least in my area, the service has been good and, on time, timely. So I think
I agree.
yeah.
I know that the owner of Heritage spoke here, and he was very open for that, and we received a text message with Sue's at my house, like, please have your trash out to the trash at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And they came at, of course, my son, who was slept in that day, didn't get the trash out. But I don't know. I haven't been as pleased with them since they switched personally. Is it a guarantee that you won't, like if you even talk about it or even consider other ones? I mean, that's, would we even get a lower rate with Heritage?
I don't want to speculate on what their proposal would be. I would just imagine that with inflation since 2023, that the cost of doing business has gone up. But again, I don't want to speculate for what a company would put in.
Can I ask if you're aware of what other companies in this area would even be some that we could get bids from?
Heritage Waste, Republic Services, and do you know of any others?
No, I think those are pretty much what, I know Heritage Waste has come in and talked to me, and looked at how many poly carts we have out and how many dumpsters we have out. And we were happy to provide that information and help them work through that. But like, I agree with Jacob. I don't think we could speculate on what somebody would come in with an RFP, but I'm with him. I think it will go up.
Okay. I'm still a fan of leaving it where it's at for 1 year. 1 year goes by really rapidly. And it's something that we could look at again next year to see if we could keep our rates down this year, especially in a time when we're asking for a penny sales tax increase and that type of thing. So if we could keep the rates down for now, that's
Agreed.
what I'm thinking. So I would make a motion that we extend their contract by a year. Would that be the proper motion to make?
Yeah.
7A.
7A. correct.
7A.
Just to clarify.
I second.
Counselor Helen,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay, moving on to number 8, discussion, consideration, possible action approving resolution number 26-08-05. Authorizing application for Rural Economic Action Plan grant for the Oklahoma Water Resource Board. Mr. Jacob.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And if you have any technical questions, Caleb is here to answer them. I just write the grants. This one is asking the Oklahoma Water Resources Board for $175,000 as part of a $215,000 project to make further improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. It would replace 2 RAS pumps. And also, if council will remember, earlier this year, we finished a project at the wastewater treatment plant that had another grant component where we were able to make improvements to the racetrack. That included installing 2 pumps on that system, but building out the electric for all 4 pumps. This is also getting funding to do those remaining 2 pumps.
Okay.
And Caleb is happy to answer any questions.
No, I mean, that's
Needed.
needed.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
Free money.
Yeah, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion approved. 8.
And I will second.
Counselor Helen,
Yes.
Counselor Barton,
Yes.
Mayor Hickman.
Yes. Okay, number 9, do I hear an adjournment?
Motion adjourned.
A second.
Counselor Helen,
Yes.
Counselor Barton.
Yes.
Yes, and we are adjourned.
This was an exciting meeting.